From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. Hugh Kellenberger going to join us here in a little bit. Former Clarion Ledger sports editor, former columnist, now a national basketball editor for The Athletic. So we'll discuss a little bit going on in the world of college basketball right now. The sport is burning from the inside out. Mike Krzyzewski denies that anything is going on other than a blip, so we'll discuss that. And much more on today's show. Media op yesterday. That content at rebelgrove.com. Matt Luke will speak tonight as well. So we'll keep firing a lot of stuff up. Stuff we talked about yesterday. Neal's mailbag presented by the Weston and Jackson is up this morning also. So that and much more as we get started. The Oxford Exxon offering you a chance to win for this weekend. When you go to the Blue Sky location in Oxford, you go to the Oxford Exxon. All you got to do is make sure you are signed up for the Exxon Mobile Rewards Plus card. Gives you a chance to win multiple different things. VIP passes, 4 tickets to the October 20th Auburn Ole Miss football game, some gear, and much more. So take advantage of that. Head on over to the Oxford Exxon. Go inside, fill out the Rewards Plus card, and you will be automatically entered when you use it to win for this. So take advantage of it. Win some tickets, win some passes, and much more with the Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900's the number. Call the number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what new Ford you are looking for, and he'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. Doing some shopping, you kind of want multiple quotes, he can do that as well. Once you get your quote, really it's up to you. You can shop it around if you'd like. A lot of people do that. You'll end up coming back to Corey because you'll find out that what Corey does is what the other dealers don't do. Corey gets right to the bottom line, makes it an efficient car buying experience. It's efficient for him. It's efficient for you. You get a great Ford vehicle, fantastic service after the sale. Corey will go the extra mile. He wants to be your car dealer. He wants to be your truck guy. He'll prove it to you. 662-257-1900. At the end of your deal, tell Corey that you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save $500 on the already bottom-line deal at Clark Ford in Amory.
One day away from Jay Tate at Funky's tomorrow night. Again, pizza and drink specials coming on there, so come hang out. We'll let Jay entertain the masses, extra points, probably some swag. Maybe if you wear a Hot Moms T-shirt, Soccer Mom T-shirt, something along those lines to benefit one Mr. J.G. Tate, who also be in town primarily for Ole Miss and Auburn Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's the primary purpose for his trip.
I feel very important. We're important too. Maybe it's Thursday night that he's actually here for. His daughter's visiting Ole Miss Friday. Maybe that's the primary purpose. Auburn football not exactly a draw right now with everything going on, other than the president giving very snide remarks. So it's all good. On the Ole Miss side, A.J. Brown, one of the people interviewed yesterday. You were at that media opportunity, Mr. McCready. Story up at rebelgrove.com. A.J. got pretty emotional. You talk about these injuries and different things, but he came in with DK, 2 guys that kind of spearheaded that class, and for one of them to potentially, depending on the decision to be made, which we'll get into in a second as well, could be done as far as they're on the field performing together.
Yeah. Look, AJ's leaving. Anybody who thinks A.J. Brown is planning to stay for
that's true. I was thinking DK side of it. Yeah. I wouldn't really play him both.
So A.J.'s played with DK
for the last time.
Probably for the last time, certainly in Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And they're tight. They've gotten to know each other. In high school, they were rivals. Mm-hmm. And they got to college together and found out that they have a lot in common, and they're good friends, and they work hard, and they know how hard each other's worked. And this has been an interesting time to play at Ole Miss. It has. And 2 guys who probably did a lot of soul searching at different times about, what do you want to do? Is this worth it? And they stayed, and they care about each other. And I'm sure for AJ, it's not the way that he wanted the season to end for his friend. And so, yeah, as I say to people all the time, they're not football robots. They're people. And it's easy to forget that, I think, until you kind of talk to them a little bit and realize that there's more to it. There's more to their lives than Ole Miss football. There's more to Ole Miss football for them than just playing football. There's friends and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it probably hit AJ a little bit this week that he and DK have played together on the same field as teammates for the last time, unless they end up playing professionally on the same team.
I don't mean this is a negative whatsoever. It's not. I mean, so don't put a negative connotation on this. But I was just thinking about this last night. AJ being such a dynamic personality, being on this Mount Rushmore of sorts that we talk about with modern-day Ole Miss football, everything he does social media-wise, everything he does on the field, his actual performance, his personality, he's kind of stamped down a little bit the personalities and the legacies, if you will, of DK and DeMarcus. Especially DeMarcus, who has had a really big career. He was a top 100 kid. He's played well for 3 or 4 seasons or whatever. But AJ is such a bright light that when they leave, the other guys probably not going to exactly get their present day due as it pertains to their careers at Ole Miss.
That's probably true, and yet pre-injury, I think DK was going to be the first of that trio drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And he still might be. I mean, I don't know what the injury is, and no one is specifying it.
Right.
The NFL will find out.
He was in a brace yesterday.
Yeah.
Speaking of, story at rebelgrove.com, you spoke to Terrence yesterday. Go read it. You're going to get more there than us speaking about it here. But got the impression, just from reading it, that they're in wait-and-see mode, but all options still on the table. This did not rule anything out.
No, the two things, I don't really want to talk a lot about it because the story's out there, number one. And number two, I don't want to accidentally get into something that maybe we said that wasn't
quoted on the record.
The two things to take away were that they're going to sit down as a family and make a decision that's best for DK, period. And that there was an optimism, certainly, that whatever the injury is, it's not going to prevent him from preparing for the NFL draft if that's what he chooses to do. I used one mock draft that I found that was not really a mock draft. It was kind of a ranking, and it had DK as a first-round player. And the guy came back after the injury and said, if he could come out next season at 22.3 years old or 23.3, one or the other, and that would be average. He's in that weird spot where he's got a hard decision to make.
And some of it just depends on how healthy, how quick, how much strength he loses in the interim. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to be catalysts for this decision that he can't necessarily even know right now. So
he's a 6'4", 230-pound kid who runs a 4.5-ish 40. If you watch the NFL, and I'm always kind of amazed, and I'm not in the best mood today, if I'm honest. So I'm probably going to end up accidentally saying things I don't want to say. There are some people who cover college football who don't watch the NFL game. And that's okay. But then when they start talking about what the NFL looks for, the NFL looks for people like DK Metcalf. The NFL, there's not a lot of drop back and throw it 55 yards down the field in the NFL. The linemen are too good. The defensive linemen, the blitz packages, you don't sit your quarterback back there. You get quarterbacks and you get the ball out of the quarterback's hand. You watch a lot of NFL. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
You want big targets. Big targets make the window bigger. NFL's about throwing to windows. Nobody's running the spread, if you will, in the NFL. You throw to windows, quick release, move the football down the field. You don't want to get behind the chains in the NFL. The defenses are too damn good. You'll get somebody killed out there. So DK Metcalf at 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is, 230, 235 pounds.
And can run.
And can run. Is
valuable.
Likely a first-round pick if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And if you're a first-round pick, you have to really think hard before you come back to college. And it doesn't matter. I'm so tired of hearing this, but he loves Ole Miss. Okay. People, I know him. There's no way. That's insane. Of course there's a way. I'm not. And listen, if he decides to come back to Ole Miss, good for him. But when Terrence says we're going to make the decision that's best for DK, you'll make the decision that's best for DK.
Yeah.
Terrence played in the NFL. He knows how physical that game is. He knows what NFL stands for. Has two meanings. One is National Football League. The other, that the players refer to, is not National Football League. It's not for long. You have a window to go get money. For Terrence, that window is open now. I mean, DK, that window is open now. If he's healthy, he has a decision to make. He'll get feedback. I know Terrence knows people in the NFL. Terrence is a level-headed guy, and he'll get some information, and they'll make the best decision. But loyalty to Ole Miss is not going to be part of that decision. In my opinion, it's what's your draft stock going to be? That's what it should be. Does he want to come back? Does he feel like he's ready to go play professionally? Does he feel like he's emotionally ready to go play professionally? Those are questions that I don't know the answers to. He's a smart kid. He's a bright kid. He is a really good kid. Handles media well. I think DK will be a very good pro if he decides to go pro now, if he decides to wait a year. The people that got hung up on the sophomore red shirt, sophomore junior thing yesterday, look, that kid's not staying in college 5 years. If DK Metcalf is at Ole Miss for a fifth year, something went wrong. No one should be cheering for that.
Right. So we shift to basketball for Hugh in a few minutes. Preseason media poll out for the SEC, something that really doesn't mean a lot, but it's good fodder for the day. Ole Miss picked 14th in that poll out of the 14 SEC teams, 11 through 14. South Carolina, A&M, Georgia, and Ole Miss, 11 through 14. Kentucky picked to win it. Tennessee 2, Auburn 3, State 4, Florida 5, LSU 6, Bama 7, Vandy 8, Missouri 9, and Arkansas 10. Player of the Year in the SEC, Grant Williams of Tennessee. Kentucky, only 2 people on the first or second team list. Give the SEC credit. They only put 5 players on first team All-SEC because, frankly, that makes sense. But they put 7 or 8 on the second team, so they had to get some more people involved there. But nonetheless, Media Day is going on this week, and that poll is out. The 2019 SEC Tournament is in Nashville, March 13th through 17th. So I'm just checking that out. Obviously, everybody involved with that one. But anyway, Ole Miss picked last in the SEC for the preseason. Again, we'll see. A lot of new players, a lot of new roles, a new coach. From a predicting standpoint, hard to put a lot on the Rebels because you just don't know what they are right now as far as what it's going to look like come that time of the year. So, anyway, there's that. We're going to Hugh in 1 second. First, if we do that, I'll tell you the podcast brought to you in part by Oxford Wine and Spirits, located on College Hill Road next to Lost Pizza. 5% below industry standards as it is, and they make it easier and cheaper for you as well. Mention the podcast, 5% off wine, 10% off liquor. There with Oxford Wine and Spirits, some new allocated bourbons in, and much, much more. So all the Cathead products and anything else you're looking for, they're at Oxford Wine and Spirits next to Lost Pizza on College Hill Road.
Podcast also sponsored by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust is based in Madison, Mississippi, but it represents clients in 24 states and has advisors in 3 states. It's founded in 1997. Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity, and decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. Regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter financial planners put you in a box. Pinnacle Trust doesn't. They sit down with you, they find out everything they need to know, and then they build a box for you. You have a retirement goal, you have a financial goal, they help you get there with a comprehensive, detailed, to-the-penny plan. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. It's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. As Chase mentioned, my mailbag is up. It's presented by the Westin Jackson. The Westin Jackson's home of Soul Spa, home of Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro. Sip on a creative craft cocktail or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships. So gather at Estelle tonight. And this podcast is brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you've been thinking about that golf trip with the guys, or maybe an anniversary trip with your significant other, maybe you've been dreaming of playing at St. Andrews or sitting at a cafe in Paris, whatever it might be, owe it to yourself to talk to John before you try to do it by yourself. Why use John? Well, he's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. John traveled the globe for 37 years before getting into the travel business, so he knows the extra attention that's needed to make a special trip one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. So if you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach or taking her to Napa for the vacation of her dreams, call John, give him some parameters and a budget. Let him give you some options. And know this, you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. Call John, 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Now, Hugh Kellenberger of The Athletic on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Hugh, good to talk to you. Been a little while. Plenty going on in the world of college basketball right now. Not exactly good for the sport. I did see that Mark Emmert said that things were not trending in a very positive way from a perception standpoint. So bully for him for at least somewhat pulling his head out of the sand for one day of his life. But as you watch this unfold, what are we watching right now? What are we looking at? And at the end of the day, what's it doing to the sport?
You know, that is a fascinating question, because I think yesterday was an important day. The vast majority of what had happened in this trial had been a he said, she said sort of thing, and there had been almost no direct connection to the actual schools or coaches. And even still, we have not seen a direct connection to a head coach. But what happened yesterday with the information that came out publicly, even if it was not given to the jury, that a Kansas assistant discussed Zion Williamson or somebody representing Zion Williamson's terms with an Adidas rep that's huge. That because that entangles Kansas, and it's the first time we've seen that sort of thing where a coach was sloppy enough to do it in a way that could come out. And now the NCAA has to figure out what to do, because while the jury doesn't have it, they have it. And does the NCAA really want to look at Zion Williamson? I don't know. I don't think so.
How do they justify not doing it?
The NCAA really wants to go after Duke?
Yeah, but here's the problem. You know this. And I don't want to be the guy that comes across like I'm defending Ole Miss or programs that have been hit, Baylor or whatever. But if the NCAA, this isn't a court of law. These are tapes. These are audio tapes. This is proof.
Yes.
From the NCAA standard, this is proof. It's not even, Hugh, it's not even an investigation. It's proof. proof. How do you not look into it?
An ask was made. Right. No, you have to look into it. It's a proof that an ask was made. It's not a proof that a payment was made. And that becomes the problem.
It does.
In the Ole Miss case, the Ole Miss case became what it was when they were able to narrow down a bagman and Leo Lewis in a parking lot at Starkville, or Rebel Rags and the gift cards. Like that is the next step here is, can the NCAA prove that someone representing Zion Williamson got what he was looking for? Like, because you, me, Chase, everybody else can guess based off of being around the sport for as long as we have been, but like you got to prove it, and that's going to be problematic. But you're absolutely right; they have to investigate it.
But you have to legitimately investigate it. You have an assistant coach on tape basically saying if that's what it takes to get him here for 10 months, we'll get it done. And then he takes a visit to Kansas. We all know Kansas pays players. There's evidence that Kansas pays players. And he doesn't go to Kansas. Yeah. He goes to Duke.
Right. Kansas, I would argue, is even more than Louisville in the most trouble here. Because, like, Kansas has reached this saturation point, like, where Bill Self, for whatever reason, has been able to remain Teflon, and, like, nothing has been able to stick. But it's the thing where you go, like, all right, Cliff Alexander took money. Billy Preston took money. Silvio De Souza, or somebody representing Silvio De Souza, took money. Zion Williamson. Like, at one point, you just start going, like, why is it always you? Like, like, there's a lot of coaches who've been worried about this trial, no matter what Mike Krzyzewski will claim. Bill Self the most. Absolutely, hands down.
Will Wade's been worried about this trial. LSU's been stressed out about it, and they popped up yesterday. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there that are worried, that should be worried. What's fascinating to me is that I'll give Dan Wetzel a ton of credit. He wrote it yesterday, but there just aren't that many people in the national media that are willing to go here with how do you address this, and should you address it?
Right.
And I mean, I know it's and a handful of them. It's because they're in bed with the NCAA. I mean, literally, he'll remain nameless for this sake. I mean, he was able to get Emmert on the phone yesterday. When you tote the water for them, you can get them on the phone when you need to get them, and he's been able to do it. But nobody's willing to say, hey, there is a solution to this, and that's go to the Olympic model. Let them make money.
Right.
What I think's coming is the NCAA, because I think it's an unconscionable organization with no integrity. I think what's coming is they're going to try to figure out a way to become the middleman between the schools and the shoes so that they get their cut.
I don't think it's the shoe companies. I think it's the NBA. I think you're right that there's a middleman coming. Because, listen, the NCAA is not walking away from their NCAA tournament money. They're just not. Like, that is the focus. The focus of the NCAA is to make money. It is billions with the B that they make off the NCAA tournament. They want to make sure that the product remains at a level where they continue to make that money. But even the most tone-deaf person in that organization knows the sand is shifting underneath their feet and they need to evolve. And that's what the Commission on College Basketball, which was flawed and flimsy and everything else, was really truly about, was trying to start a conversation that gets the NBA to foot the bill here. That's where we're headed, I think. The shoe company, because I think the Commission didn't want any part of the shoe companies. It wants to act like the high schools are still important. They're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know whether the NBA ultimately, like, let's take Zion Williamson, for example. Without the one-and-done rule, he's a rookie making his debut in the NBA tonight, maybe sitting on the end of a bench, maybe playing in the G League or whatever it's called now, or maybe playing. Maybe he's the, backup power forward for the Clippers tonight. I don't know. I don't know whether the NBA would like to go ahead and have Zion Williamson in an NBA uniform, despite the fact that he probably, like most males, I certainly wasn't ready to be a professional at 18 had I had the ability. He probably isn't ready either, or whether they are willing to foot the bill for kids like him to go to programs like Duke for a year or two and mature a little bit before they come to the league. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one and done is going to go away. And if one and done had gone away for this year, Zion Williamson would be in an NBA uniform. And he may have been sitting on the end of the bench. He may be Jermaine O'Neal, who sat on the end of the bench for like 3 years before he finally played and then had a really productive career. Because that's what we kind of forget with the guys who went straight out of high school, the vast majority of them, like, were really good. Like, there were some busts, but most of them were guys making bad decisions that no one thought should actually have done it.
Right.
I think the conflict there from the NBA wants a minor league. Does the NBA want college to be their minor league where there is better coaching overall and kids play in big environments? And I think there's something to that where, you learn how to play in front of 20,000 people as opposed to a G League gym in front of 200. At the same time, you'd probably rather have him in your G League organization where he's learning how you want him to play and developing under your trainers and your skills people. That's going to be the conflict. I think NBA wants college to be there in some form or fashion because not every kid is ready at 18. However, how much of that are they really willing? Like, are they going to foot the bill for it? I don't know.
Well, because if you're let's say you're a Grizzly. Say you're in the Grizzlies organization. Let's say Zion Williamson's playing in the Grizzlies organization, and the Grizzlies deem that he's not ready to play this year. He's in Memphis. He plays. What do they call that team? I can't remember. But they've got their G League team. He's right there.
Yeah.
He's playing in the same building.
The Memphis Hustle.
The Hustle. He plays for the Hustle. They got him in the building. He can work with their strength and conditioning people. The Grizzlies coaches can work with him individually. They can monitor him in the city. They can sort of help manage who he's around, who he hangs out with, his diet, all of those things. And then, the NBA is a league where right now, realistically, 5 teams have a chance to make the NBA Finals. There's a lot of teams that are not tanking necessarily, but they're in building mode. A talent like him, you could certainly babysit him for a year or two while he develops and matures.
Yeah, I mean, right. You're absolutely right on the Zion Williamsons. It's the kids that are outside of that 10 to 15, maybe 20 in a really good year that are ready. And the NBA is a grown man's league. It is not a league that is set up to develop and mature 18-year-olds. So there's still going to be a environment for kids to develop. The Jalen McDaniels of the world, the San Diego State kid that, was a barely top 100 recruit and probably will be a first-round pick next June because he's really developed and grown and matured at San Diego State. Like, where do those kids go? And I could see the NBA having a vested interest in they want college to exist for those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, kind of where we started a minute ago, how would you rate the SEC teams as far as actually being in trouble or potentially in trouble here? Who's going to for sure skate this, and who could have something going on?
Right now LSU is probably in the most trouble. At the same time, LSU's kind of in a prove it sort of thing. The thing that came up yesterday. That's a kid that's not on their campus. There's a conversation. That conversation is really bad. At the same time, it's not just having a conversation. It's did you actually do it? Other than that, the SEC has, Auburn clearly just has done the Auburn thing of just saying, like, we don't care. We're fine. Bruce Pearl got a contract extension. Like, that showed exactly what Auburn thinks about this whole thing. And this remains an Adidas deal. So, all the Nike schools so far mostly have been okay because everybody. The FBI did not get everybody. Up until yesterday, this had been mostly a disappointment if you were expecting, the titans of the sport to crumble.
Take a break in our talk with Hugh to tell you the podcast brought to you in part by Visit Oxford. Head on Oxford. Whether it is a football weekend or not, plenty to do. Only a couple more opportunities to take the public double-decker bus tours this football season. Those at 2 o'clock prior to every 2 o'clock on Friday prior to every Ole Miss home game football weekend. Tomorrow, the mini Masters. That's at the Powerhouse. Been telling you about that. Workshops to take your children to. A lot of neat things. Tomorrow they're doing Print It Up. A lot of different things for your kid to learn and be interactive with. Thacker Mountain Radio, 6 o'clock in front of Off Square Books every single week. You've got a Harvest Supper on the grounds of Roanoke coming up October the 18th, Cherubs the Lyric, and much, much more. So see the full calendar of events and what to do at visitoxfordms.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, look no further than Grenada Nissan. They have a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Great service after the sale. I've been doing business with Gene and Sandy and the people at Grenada Nissan for more than a decade. You can take my word for it. It's fantastic. I've never had anything but an absolutely great experience. You won't either. Grenada Nissan USA.com. Big week for Ole Miss athletics this week. Join the Ole Miss Hoops teams for a night on the Square on Friday at 6:15 for Square Jam. Complimentary shuttles are available at the Ford Center from 4:30 to 7:30. Ole Miss Hoops looks forward to seeing you Friday night at Square Jam. Join the Ole Miss volleyball team as it takes on the Florida Gators Friday night at 7:30. As always, admission is free at the Gillum Center. After a thrilling victory over the Arkansas Razorbacks, the Ole Miss football team returns to the Vaught on Saturday as they take on the Auburn Tigers. Tickets can be purchased by visiting OleMissTix.com. And the Ole Miss soccer team returns home Sunday as they take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs at 4 p.m. For more info, visit OleMissSports.com. Now back to Hugh Kellenberger of The Athletic on the Oxford Exxon podcast.
And that's going to stay there, right?
I would think so. It's been a year.
Yeah.
My suspicion is that the FBI made a big public show, or the Southern District of New York. I shouldn't say the FBI. The FBI didn't investigate. The Southern District of New York made that big public show where they made the charts and they showed the bag man and the money man and the schools and the shoe companies, and this is how it all works. And we got your playbook. And they were hoping that the tip line was just going to rain down with all of this stuff. And they were shaking everything loose, and they were going to get all these new leads out of it. And that didn't happen because we haven't seen anybody else implicated other than the guys that they got on day one.
They underestimated the code.
Yes, 100%.
We talked about this, was it yesterday, Chase? We talked about, or maybe the day before, we talked about Barney Farrar and how the NCAA wasn't trying to get Barney Farrar. They wanted to get Hugh Freeze. They thought Barney Farrar would sing, and ultimately he didn't.
Yes.
And, if Farrar tells all, they get who they want. They wanted Freeze. And that's happening in the college game, too. It's like Wetzel wrote. No one's going to Krzyzewski and saying, hey, Zion Williamson wants a job for his dad where his dad doesn't have to work, makes six figures. They want free housing, and he wants cash in his pocket. They don't go to Krzyzewski. They go to assistant coaches. They go to intermediaries. And so there's plausible deniability. It's the code.
Well, right.
And if you get caught as the middleman, you take the hit.
They don't even, in a lot of these situations, you don't even go to the assistant coach because there's a understanding, spoken or unspoken, between the shoe company and the handlers and the schools that it's the shoe company's job to make sure that these kids go to their schools. And so they're going to do it. And in some of these cases, you wonder how – the school probably had no idea of any of the specifics because they didn't want to, but because they didn't need to. That's somebody else's job.
So how long before this gets off the front page and we just all forget about it?
Next week?
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, that's how these things go, right? Like, because, all right, so they're going to do the closing argument start this afternoon. They'll reach a verdict. It seems 50-50 of what that verdict is actually going to be. If you're just like kind of a trial junkie, the whole thing is fascinating. The defense was not that we didn't commit these violations. It was that, we did it, but like it wasn't fraud. And the prosecution made a weird case by like saying that it was fraud.
The defense argument was we did everything you said we did. In fact, we did more than what you said we did, but there's no victim.
Yes, right, exactly. We were helping. We were not, committing any sort of real crime. And so.
Frankly, that's a compelling argument.
It is a heck of a legal case study, if nothing else. I'm fascinated.
Yes. Well, it especially, too, when you consider that this is a trial happening in New York, which is not a college sports town, which is a pro sports town, and how likely were you to find 12 people who are going to be clutching their pearls over a kid getting $100,000 to play basketball at a school that makes millions?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, I still have yet to see the prosecution point out where there's a victim.
Right.
I mean, I've yet to see a victim.
So, right. And so if they don't get a guilty verdict here, there are more trials scheduled, and they'll keep them on the books and they'll try them. But like, there's a very good chance that the Southern District of New York just flames out on this one, and then it becomes in the NCAA's hand, and it may be years before we see NCAA like finally get to the bottom of it, because they kind of have to wait for all the trials to end. And that's not going to be until the middle of next year. Zion Williamson will be in the NBA.
It's just I don't know. To me, it's just such a bad look. It's kind of like the deal at Ole Miss where there's this vacuum of leadership at the top, and sometimes it just ends up being this really distasteful look. To me, Emmert looks bad here. Emmert, instead of coming out and addressing this with some degree of openness, he's just a corporate shill.
But he doesn't care. He always looks bad, and at some point it just doesn't even matter anymore.
Right.
I mean,
no, and I think what they're not betting on this, but I think what you mentioned, like getting it off the page, like what I've seen, not a whole lot of people really truly care. Like most people are fine with the kids getting paid, so they're not getting. They're not getting up in arms about the thing. The vast majority of people who have cared about this trial, in terms of fans, are people who either are fans of a school that has been implicated, so they're worried about what it means for their school, or you're fans of the rival of that school. Mm-hmm. So if you're Kansas, you're worried. If you're Kansas State, you're paying attention because you want to see Kansas go down. Louisville and Kentucky. But like, do I think college basketball fans in general have been like agonizing over every bit of this trial? I really don't think so. Like, for whatever reason, I just haven't seen that. And there are numbers to back that up. We've written about it, a fair amount, a pretty good amount. And it's not as popular as the stuff that's actually about basketball.
Yeah. The other thing, I'll give the NCAA credit. For the last several years, they've done this deal where they find some national media types and they bring them to Indianapolis and they do their little mock BCS or their mock NCAA tournament thing, and they take them to dinner and they kiss their ass, and it's paid off. It's absolutely paid off. That it's not been covered the way that I think a lot of people thought it would be covered.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think some of it is that you have to follow where you make decisions on coverage based off of where the interest is. And if you don't think the interest is there in it, then you don't cover it.
You do, but you know what I'm saying here. I mean, look, there've been football programs and basketball programs too that have been hammered for a lot less than what's been in this courtroom. And that's been it's been mainstream stuff. I mean, Dan Wilkins, USA Today, it's a big publication. He spent a lot of time on the Ole Miss story. And if Ole Miss is guilty of everything in both NOAs, it doesn't even hold a candle to what's been accused of 15 schools. And the coverage is not the same. And I don't want to be the guy that's defending Ole Miss. I'm just kind of wanting to be the guy that points out the discrepancy.
Right. I know what you're saying. I can't speak for what any other publication's doing.
Oh, I know you can't. No, I know you can't. And I'm not asking you to. And I'm not trying to make you the defender of those people. It's a fast. When if anything, at times during the NCAA thing, I would get almost frustrated with Ole Miss people when they'd say, we're a victim. I'm like, no, you're not a victim. I mean, your program was sloppy. Your program cheated. Yeah. But when they now turn around and say, we didn't do anything compared to what those accusations are, and I don't see the same vitriol, I have to say, yeah, you got a point. I get it. I understand where those people come in and say, well, this is kind of frustrating. And I can understand that frustration.
Right. Yeah, I know what you're – I understand. And I don't want to speak for any other outlets, but, Yahoo's, I think, been in that courtroom every day. And, Yahoo obviously covered Ole Miss's trial, Ole Miss's situation extensively. Yeah. So I think their coverage has been similar.
Yeah, I'll give Pat Forty credit. He had a really good column yesterday about the whole thing. Wetzel's been terrific. I mean, there's a handful of people who have really covered it. Mark Schlabach was in the courtroom with ESPN. It's not across the board. It's fairly isolated to one or two publications, but it's been interesting to see the difference. And like I said, one guy was able to get Mark Emmert on the phone yesterday. When you tote the water, sometimes you get the rewards.
So before we let you go, you're watching from afar now. Any thoughts, observations from 7 games into Joe Moorhead and Matt Luke?
You know what? I probably not really, because if I'm being completely honest, I don't know how much Ole Miss and Mississippi State football I've actually watched this year.
You've been a little busy.
Let me ask you this on a topic that you do know something on. I guest hosting the Gary Parrish show yesterday, and we were talking SEC basketball. Gary's been on the media circuit going all over the country. Everybody's having their media days and stuff, as you well know. Yeah. And SEC Media Day is today. And I was tasked as one of I think it was 16 people to do the preseason all SEC thing. And it's football season, and honestly, I had to stop and make some phone calls and talk to people because I had two thoughts. One, I'd like to get this quasi right, and two, I know wherever I put Ole Miss, I'm going to get criticized for it, so let me try to put them in the right place. And I ended up putting Ole Miss 13th out of 14 in the SEC preseason. And the SEC, man, is stacked, at least on paper, preseason. Yeah. And Gary Parrish said yesterday, I said, when I was looking at it, there were 9, maybe 10 teams that have NCAA tournament potential. And I said, I know that they won't get that many bids. And he corrected me. He said, hey, don't be so sure. This could be the year the SEC gets 9 NCAA tournament bids. The league's that good. Their schedule's that good. Their power rating is going to be that good. Do you concur with Gary, or do you think that's a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe a little bit bullish?
No, I agree. I think the SEC is in line, is as close to the ACC and the Big Ten as it can probably possibly be. It's probably better than the Big Ten on paper right now, even though that's an improved league. I think Ole Miss's problem, I think they were picked 14th, so you were right about on, is there was a time in the SEC when having a bunch of veteran players who were all pretty good, which is what Ole Miss has, was enough to assure you at least a 8th, 9th, 10th place finish, because you knew that there were going to be 4 or 5 teams that just didn't have a clue, that were just utter disasters. The problem in the league now is that, you go down to 9 and 10, and they still have NBA talent on their rosters. Missouri is a veteran-heady team that also has a Jonte Porter, and that makes you dangerous. The amount of, Mississippi State, is a veteran-heady team that found success at the end of last season that, I think Nick Weatherspoon is like a huge breakout candidate. Nick Weatherspoon is better than Quindary. I know why Quindary gets on the All-SEC teams because it's a veteran thing and he's put up numbers year over year. Nick Weatherspoon, his brother, is better. Lamar Peters is probably better. Quindary is a very good number 2, 3 player on a good team. And so that's where the league gets really interesting, is that there's just a lot of teams that are going to pile up wins in the non-conference. And so even if they beat up each other in the conference, and there's a lot of teams that are hanging around, a couple games above 500, right at 500, like they're all going to be able to point to these wins that they had in November and December and in the Big 12 Challenge and be able to say, yeah, but we proved it. And then, the missing piece here that we're not quite sure on is the new rating tool, the net, taking over for the RPI, how that's going to rate them. But I would think it's going to rate it pretty well. Like, based on my understanding of the net, I think the SEC is the league that's going to come out well on that.
Fascinating. More fun than the alternative, if nothing else. Well, Hugh, I know you got some traveling coming up, a lot of basketball, so enjoying the work so far for the Athletic, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Hugh for joining us this morning. Podcast also brought to you by G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar in Oxford. Time to get that flu shot. You can walk in. You can stop by anytime they're open, Monday through Friday, and you can get it with $0 if you have insurance. If you're not, you can get it for $25. Makes it easy there to take care of your health and get a flu shot just by walking in with G&M Pharmacy. If you're in Holly Springs, that's Tyson Drugs, downtown Holly Springs, 662-252-2321. Both places offer compliance packaging to make sure you take your medicine at the right time and make it efficient and easy for you. Again, G&M Pharmacy in Oxford on South Lamar and TysonDrugs.com.
Podcast is also brought to you by Oxford University Bank, OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home and all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person, all without having to press 10 buttons, without a 5-minute wait. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. And with Kasasa, ATM fees nationwide are refunded. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured. And the podcast is brought to you by Megan Phillips with LAH Real Estate. She's the person to call for all your real estate needs in the Birmingham area. With almost a decade of experience, Megan's knowledge and expertise can help you buy or sell your home today. So visit our website, meganmphillips.com. That's MEAGANMphillips.com. Or call Megan at 205-602-7929. Again, 205-602-7929.
Podcast is brought to you by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Stoughton County, and Chattanooga. Underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting that understands your market. You can ask Jason about the float down option, which allows you to lock in the current rate. But if rates go down before you close, you get that lower rate. 662-234-2704 or JLOW, JLOWE, at communitymtg.com. It's bad. There's proof it's bad, and I kind of agree with Hugh Neal. At the end of the day, I think from an NCAA penalty standpoint, minimal to none here as this thing moves forward.
Yeah, and that's okay. I just don't claim to be something you're not. Don't claim to be in this for the student athlete, and you're all that baloney. I know they'll continue to, and we'll hear all the propaganda about we're student athletes and look at what we serve. If you're going to do that, then start doing more with volleyball and rifle and basket weaving, maybe. I don't know. To me, it's distasteful. The proof's right there. Again, I hate being the guy who's acting like I'm defending Ole Miss because I do not want that role. I do not want that job. But I get why Ole Miss fans are turned off.
Of course.
I get it. Even if Ole Miss is guilty of everything in those two NOAs, and by the way, it's not. They're guilty of everything. It doesn't stack up to anything resembling some of the money that we're hearing. And the NCAA's argument is kind of like, the hardline Bible guy that says all sin is the same. The NCAA's argument has always been, hey, the amount of money doesn't matter. Okay, well, it's right there. There's your proof.
They're not putting Duke basketball on probation.
No, they're not putting Kansas basketball on probation. I'm surprised they've done anything to Louisville.
Mark Emmert's job is to make billions of dollars for the NCAA tournament, and that is really it, no matter what his reputation is or is not, period.
It shows you, and man, this question came up in the mailbag, it shows you that the story that we've never been able to report, no one has, what in the hell happened in that meeting between Mike Sheridan and Hugh Freeze?
Because it's become this, well, it's not urban legend because it's true, but it's become this Paul Bunyan type thing because we hear so much and so many things and so many accounts and whatnot that it's fascinating.
It must have been insanely stupid. It's incredible. Because when people say, well, they wanted to make an example, they don't really want to make examples, man. They want to make money. Ole Miss was making money.
Well, they hit just enough schools, and they actually like hitting high-profile schools because that's what gets printed.
Yeah.
It's just enough to really show we're enforcing. Ole Miss is on a list with Alabama, Miami, and USC.
Yeah, you look back.
You don't hit the little school. You hit the big schools.
This is just my opinion, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
But basketball is a different animal than football.
Yeah, but you look back, and it's that tweet and that meeting. Well, the tweet was stupid. The tweet was, hey, you can't. See, you guys, man, The tweet was dumb.
And they had Lindsey Miller.
And then
according to NCAA documents, 100 hours of testimony.
And then if you don't call Lindsey Miller a wife beater in an incredibly poorly written.
See, that's maybe the number one day if you had one back if you're Ole Miss. That might be number one.
That was really bad PR. Poor.
Because we're not about a real stable individual, so he's going to counter-attack here. I mean, it's...
When you call a man a wife beater, there's not a lot left. When you publicly say, "Hey, man, this guy,"
that's sort of the public version of the umpire that's about to ring you because you used a couple words there. I mean, that's sort of down that path.
Yeah, when you call an umpire a Doc Tucker, he's gonna go get you. You're it. You're out.
Yeah.
If you tell an umpire or you invite an umpire to
do certain things,
to duck your talk, he's going to throw you out.
Right there.
That moment, that's the line gets crossed. When you call a man a wife beater, you go pretty far that moment. And they did. They called him a wife beater. That's a tough one. If you accuse me of beating my wife, the gloves are coming off at that point. Because for a man, I can't say whether he did or did not. I have no clue. It's a hell of an accusation. At that point, he said, "You know what? What do y'all want to know? What do you want to know?" Fascinating deal.
It'll be out of the public conscience by next Thursday. Right?
The way our country works now with social media and stuff,
the actual season will overshadow it too, since there's been no actual investigation or penalty.
Well, here's an example. We just had the big Supreme Court thing. It was just dominated the news cycle.
1 week later, it's been completely replaced by a DNA test.
Yeah, a week later, in the deal in Saudi Arabia with the journalist.
Yeah.
Which is just, but a week later, he's on the court and it's over. I know it's still out there and there are people still doing things, but it's not front page news. Kavanaugh's name's not on the front page of every newspaper in the country this week. It's been 1 week.
Would it have been 20 years ago?
I think so.
What do we do? But why? What are we writing today? Because at this point, you're either still digging up really weird, strange things, or you're
probably be writing about the groups that the kind of the fringe groups that are still trying to come up with ways to impeach him.
Or some
the plan for
first 10 days. What's happened? What are we doing?
The election coming up, and what
could that mean?
Yeah.
Okay, it's fair. Just curious. What?
No, just laughing.
You got something?
No, I'm just giggling. I'm reading this. Someone sent me the actual court filing on Robertson's book, and
I saw that.
It's just funny.
Saw where the Astros are cheating again.
Did they ever stop?
Oh, you don't think they ever stopped?
No.
Astros employee appeared to be shooting video from the photographer's pit adjacent to the Red Sox dugout in Game 1, I think.
Not surprised.
I mean,
the Red Sox.
If you don't really get caught and it matters, I mean, is it cheating? I mean, what?
Putting somebody pretending to be a media member in that's a little much.
We didn't get away with it.
I think it's one thing if you are in your dugout and you're watching the other dugout and you figure out their sign.
The Astros, Major League sources tell ESPN's Buster Olney, had deployed the employee to monitor whether the Red Sox were doing anything outside the rules on their side of the field. So really, he was just being a gatekeeper here, making sure the Red Sox did not break any penalties. I mean, it's not me. It's you. It's
These two series are getting good because there is an animosity.
It's going to be a fine for the Astros. They'll pay it. Be happy to.
Oh, yeah, though. That's no big deal.
No. Somebody cut the check. Send it on.
Yeah. The two teams do not like each other. And now in the National League Series, Manny Machado stepped on Jesus Aguilar's foot yesterday, created a little bit of a brouhaha.
In Manny's defense, the foot was in the middle of the bag.
It was in the middle of the bag.
I mean, that's his space.
Yeah, the bag belongs to the runner, too,
yeah.
So he stepped on him.
I really don't blame Machado there, if you know the truth.
No, Yelich was not happy with Manny. It's 2-2. We appear to be headed towards a seventh game. And by the time you get to a seventh game, two teams just don't like each other anymore.
Well, did we have previous animosity here at all, or has it all been brewed through this series?
I think it's just this series. The stakes are high.
Okay.
I mean, the Dodgers, they lost Game 7 of the World Series last year.
They're a little on edge right now.
They've got Manny Machado, and he's a free agent at the end of the season, and it appears that the Yankees are prepared to give him $80 gazillion. So Philadelphia's prepared to give him 80, maybe even $81 gazillion. I mean, you don't know that you're going to be able to keep him. This might be your last shot. Clayton Kershaw's getting older. He's a free agent at the end of the season if he wants to be. This might be the end of the window for the Dodgers. And then you've got this Brewers team that sold a lot of its farm system to get some of these pieces. And will they ever be back in this spot again? You never know.
Making the title rings essentially reversible. We've jumped the shark on rings now, haven't we? Aren't we at the point where... Because, look, nobody's wearing these rings anyway. Rings are individual trophies at this point. That's what they are.
Yeah, they're trophies.
I mean, I'm kind of done with it. I'm over it. Like, let's see how ostentatious we can be every single year with a bunch of rings.
That's a good word. Yeah, it's like who could just make them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not using like a starving kids line or anything, but like, what are we doing? I mean, what's the purpose? I mean,
it's just to be bigger and better than the last one.
I'm usually not bothered by things. This kind of bothered me.
Did you watch the ring ceremony?
No, I'm not watching that.
I watched it.
Why?
Because I was waiting for the game to start.
Oh, okay, that's different.
I watched First quarter, maybe a little bit more than that. I watched all of Philly and Boston. And then I watched
Philly's good, Boston's better. They're going to win the East. Move on.
Boston's good.
Yeah.
Boston got almost nothing out of Kyrie and Gordon Hayward yesterday, and they won the game like anyway. Yeah. They're good. Jason Tatum's a star. And then the second game, the Thunder without Russell Westbrook were led in the third quarter, in it in the fourth quarter. Pretty interesting. They're If you're a Thunder fan, last night was not the worst night.
You say so?
Yeah, not bad. And the recruitment of Kevin Durant by the Warriors, it's already started, and I don't blame them. If they lose Kevin Durant off that team, titles are over.
So where's he going to end up?
New York, going to play for the Knicks.
Oh, really?
NBA's going to fix this.
If anybody's curious, money pretty evenly spread so far. 52% on Ole Miss, 48% on Auburn so far for Saturday's game.
The line went up to 4 yesterday.
It did. It is at 4 currently, and then the 70. And this is pretty standard. Most of the time, the money's on the over, no matter what. Typically, there is 72% of the money on the over compared to 28. The over/under is 63 right now.
Yeah, I don't know how you could possibly go under on an Ole Miss game.
Ever. Even when it goes under, you go, okay, fine.
I mean, Ole Miss's defense gives up 500 yards to every team it plays.
Well, it was kind of like the Vanderbilt-Florida game last week. Like, part of me goes, Vegas probably knows something, and Vanderbilt did get ahead early. And I go, but when this thing's over, I'm going to be much more pissed off if I take Vanderbilt and lose than taking Florida and lose. Of course. And it's kind of how it works with the over-under. It's like, take the over and, okay, I like my chances. If something doesn't work out, that's fine.
And if something happens and it's 21-17, I just go, hey, you know what, Vegas, man, you win. Congrats.
If it's 3-2 on Saturday, I go, okay.
Add another coat of gold to something.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, how you could – Ole Miss's offense scores points. Ole Miss's defense gives up points. There's going to be a lot of points.
Somebody heard in the Oklahoma-TCU game, 75% of the money's on the under, which is usually kind of weird in a college
game. Yeah, I don't know.
Game. Yeah. Just throwing that out there. Just kind of noticed it a second ago. So anyway, yeah, 52-48 and then 72-28 on the over and under for that. What are we talking to Jay about tomorrow? What are we doing? Are we basically doing a greatest pod in the South, or are we doing an Oxford Excellent podcast? What are we doing?
Probably a little combination of the two. We'll see where it goes. We'll ask about Auburn because we haven't done a whole lot on Auburn from the Auburn perspective this week, so we'll get that. Been an interesting week there. Gus Malzahn admitted yesterday that, the championship season's lost. They got to play for each other, play for Auburn. Stood behind Jarrett Stidham. We'll find out what's going on there. I have no idea what to expect in this game. I had a pretty good read on Ole Miss Arkansas. It went almost exactly like I thought it would. It was a little less scoring than I thought it would be. I thought it would be 42-38-ish. So we were close. Man, I don't have any idea on this one. You could tell me Ole Miss wins by 2 touchdowns. You could tell me Auburn wins by 3 touchdowns, and I'd buy it.
Sure.
But last week, if you'd said, hey, man, the game's a blowout, I would have said, no way. Neither one of these
Nobody's running off from the other one and it lasting.
These two teams are going to the fourth quarter. This game, man, I don't know. You have a read on it? Not holding you to it, but just curious.
I just feel like Auburn is very gettable. That's all I got. Now, Ole Miss is banged up, injuries everywhere. It's a disaster in spots.
Yeah, but Ole Miss goes into almost every game as gettable.
Yeah, but I look at this Auburn team and go, they hate each other in the locker room. Gus is under fire. Stidham is skittish in the pocket. They don't have a running game that we're used to seeing. Their offensive line sucks on the edges. Tennessee just killed them down the field.
It might literally depend on their mood when they wake up that morning.
A lot of people are going, 11 o'clock's great. I do think 11 a.m. helps Auburn more than Ole Miss.
11 a.m. absolutely helps the road team.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So that's not an advantage to Ole Miss.
But Ole Miss just went in and won a road game at 6:30 at night. I
didn't say it's not a determining factor.
Right.
I'm just saying I think that helps Auburn. Frankly, because if you're already in a bad mood, sitting around all day is not helping your mood.
Right.
Auburn could hate each other more by the time 6:30 gets there just because they're impatient.
No, there's a certain degree of motivation to go, hey, we can get up, have some breakfast, get your tape on, let's go play. Then we'll be back in Auburn by, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Y'all can all get away from each other, go see your girlfriends.
And I'll see you on Tuesday morning or something. Yeah.
We'll have a meeting at some point, but whatever. You don't like me, I don't like you. Let's get away from each other.
We got 4 more of these things.
Our weekend would be more pleasant if we find a way to win.
Yeah. Make it easier on everybody. So, I don't know.
A lot of it depends. I mean, I don't know what the kids think about the current coaching staff. Kids know the score right now. It's out there.
No, they're not oblivious.
No, stop.
Yeah.
They're well aware that Gus Malzahn's in trouble.
So do you fight for him or you go, hey, let him die on the vine?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Auburn's going to throw the game. I'm just saying.
No, but there's a motivational difference there.
Am I playing hard for this guy or am I not? Where a guy goes.
Are we going through the motions?
Guy goes, Roger Doran. He's not trying to not field the ball, but if you think I'm putting my face in front of that thing, you're wrong.
Don't worry.
I mean, if I'm going to try to field it, and if it hits my glove, great, I'll throw to first, get the out. But I'm not diving into the wall here.
No. I don't know. I'm intrigued. Hopefully we sit Neal and Marcelo next to each other. We'll have a big day on Saturday. And
well, here's the interesting thing. I will be on my best behavior. I won't be accused of cheering because there will be no game for me to watch. The Cubs,
that's true,
sadly, are done. I don't think the Thunder even play Saturday.
Well, all it took was a scout being in the wrong place to get us all worked up last time, 2 years ago. So, I mean, it's not like it's a pretty volatile situation here. It does not take a bomb going off.
It was a scout down there cheering, and I'm watching Game 4 of the World Series.
Yeah.
Cussing John Lackey at the time.
Yeah. No, it was like a scout for the Dolphins or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, who had Ole Miss ties or something, and it had Marcelo worked up.
I don't even think he was cheering for Ole Miss. I think he was reacting to plays.
Oh.
Just like, on a big play, you go, whoo, whoo, like whatever. I think he was just kind of animated in his watching the game.
And I was literally not watching the game. I was watching Cubs-Indians Game 4. I had driven back from Chicago that day, was exhausted, was watching Cubs-Indians Game 4, and the Indians were kicking the Cubs' ass, and I was getting fast in a bad mood.
Yeah, so Ole Miss and Auburn, Saturday, 11 a.m. for that one. Again, Funkies tomorrow night with JG and the gang. So we'll talk to you tomorrow.